Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live stream. My name's Matt Bailey. I'm the National Ambassador for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. Thank you so much for joining me for this Friday night drinks. That's why we're starting with this, is just having some drinks with some friends, having a chance for us to have a live catch-up like this, a live stream like I used to do every single night, which is really exciting because I haven't had a chance to do this in this sort of format that I've wanted to for some time. And there's been lots of reasons for that. And you can call it whatever you like. You can call it sort of like needing a break from doing it every single night because it is quite taxing when you do it that many times. But I'm going to bring up the chat stream and make sure that we can see everyone. By the way, throw your comments in. We'll answer all your questions. Throw your comments in. I can't see them all straight away, but I just want to make sure we can see them all. There he is. There's the first comment. Dr. Akers, welcome. I'm going to throw all your comments up on the screen here. Thank you so much. They'll be scrolling on this side of the screen for you all to see and engage in, and I hope you can raise a glass, join me for a dram tonight. I'm going to bring in some special guests as we go along. First, I want to welcome in, of course, my regular collaborator and a guy who knows the society inside out, of course, and has worked with the society on a number of occasions and different times. Please welcome Biggie Matt. I'm going to call him Biggie Matt. Here he is. Biggie Matt, welcome to the stream.
Hello.
Yo, whoa. Yeah, you're there. You're very loud. You're good.
I'm very loud.
That worked. Bit of distortion, but we're good.
Okay.
We're going with the green background tonight.
Yeah. I thought I'd better get on brand a bit, huh?
Yeah. On brand. Yeah. yeah. Society green. Yeah.
Society green. That's right.
Yeah. Just going to throw up some of these comments up on the screen. Annalisa Contos, thank you so much. Homo, great to have a catch up. Hello, MB. Hello, everyone at MB and MW here with you at the moment. I'm going to bring in some more special guests in a moment. And I think some people still got their their usernames hidden or something going on here. And maybe be back with the Friday drinks. That's correct. So you can throw your comments up in the chat thread. Of course, we'll be throwing them up and having a chat with each person as we come along tonight. What's that coming up on screen for? Anyway,
I'm trying to figure out how to chat myself, and then realize that I've got to be in Facebook to chat, don't I?
This is what I like to see, Amit. I love whiskies in green bottles. So it's Society and Lefroy at that rate, I think, at the moment. Give us a hair flick. Yeah, I'll get there. Bond Store Solutions. You're obviously a long-time viewer. If you're referring to hair flick, that's going back a good little while now.
There we are.
But Rob Akers says double mats. Well, I'm gonna balance out the mats just for a minute, and I'm gonna bring in some of our Victorian counterparts. So we've got a couple of New South Wales, a couple of Victorian counterparts in here. Please welcome.
Not Morsey again.
Again, not Morsey again. There he is. Gonna bring Morsey. Good to see Morsey.
Friday night drinks. Good to be back.
Our Victorian State Manager, Alex Moores, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for joining in. Yeah, this is a really good comment, actually. Annalisa said, wasn't the champ supposed to be tonight? It's actually supposed to be tomorrow night. But it's, we're as close as, it's one of those things that I was talking about Willa a while ago about saying, oh, you know what, if the champs can't go ahead, and this is sort of when the lockdowns were first starting to come into place, it was like, well, what can we do instead? It's like, and he said, let's just do a stream and let's just have throw some comments up, invite some people in and have a drink. Because really, what have we got? We've got Adelaide, Melbourne, and Sydney all in lockdown at the moment. And so it's, if you're at home and you want to join us for a dram, please just tune in, throw your comments up. Mike Leyland says, hello, Alex. Welcome, Alex. A lot of people are throwing up here. Hurry up and get loose from Facebook user. Interesting. And Alex, you don't need to comment in the comment stream as well. You can comment here.
I'm multitasking, mate.
Oh, right. Okay. Steve taking over my chat. Okay. But no, that is true. Annalisa's comment. I'll just throw it up once more here from the chat thread. I hope you can all see that chat thread on the side of the screen there. I think it's really good for us all to be able to see this. You should see the comments coming through. You can be watching this right now on YouTube. You can be watching it on our Facebook group. I reckon the group's the best way to go. Karen, good to see you. You're obviously one of those YouTubers. Really appreciate it. Now, I've got one more guest to bring in for the moment. And I'm just going to welcome him in right now, just to balance out the Victorian scales a little bit further. Julian White from Whisky and Almond, who is one of the co-founders of Whisky and Almond. Unfortunately, the bar is currently closed, which is why he's with us tonight, which means that he'll get to share a few drinks with him virtually at least. Julian, welcome to the
show. I'm here.
Awesome. Exactly. Good to see you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good to be
holding
here.
Up? Yeah, holding up.
Holding up indeed. good to I just posted on my Instagram like drams with mates and like a picture of the screen, and it feels good. It actually feels like we're catching
Good
up.
idea. I need to do that now myself.
Yeah, you're gonna tweet it and say I'm here. You're on Instagramming it or whatever you want to do. Amit says he's just poured himself a Springbank 15 and ready for an awesome stream. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Amit. Look, we're just going to have a bit of a chat, like I said, ask a few questions, take your comments, and just feel like we're actually at the pub instead of being in lockdown. Hi, all from everyone coming in here. This is great. There's three of us on YouTube. I'm not cool enough to be part of the Facebook group. Look, you do have to be a certain level of cool to be in the Facebook group. That is true. Alex doesn't quite make the cut. That's why we've just had to boot him out. I'm really sorry. So tell us, Jules, how's the last sort of what has it been? A week and a half been for you?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Obviously the having the bar closed is quite a challenge, but it does give us time to work on things that we've been wanting to work on for a long time. So it's nice to sort of reassess again and just sort of focus on less than what you usually do, I suppose, things that you don't usually get to focus on. So I really sort of, it takes a little while to change gears and get into that lockdown mode again. But when I get into it, I do quite enjoy it. So and I think the most important, I'm so lucky that I've got Brooke to work with every day, and that makes things so much easier and so much more rewarding.
What do they say? You're only as good as the team around you, and you've got a fantastic team at Whiskey and Almond. You've got such a strong team there. And some of which have been there for many years now, and have sort of worked out. Especially have probably worked out very quickly over the last sort of 18 months how to adapt to everything as well.
Yeah, well, we've just got to sort of keep finding things for people to do, and that's what really keeps us sort of innovating, I guess, is looking for ways to involve everyone and keep them going and keep them together. Yeah. That's what it's about.
And have you found sort of tasks and roles for the staff when they're not behind the bar? Has that been helpful as well?
Yeah, I suppose it's something we tried to do before lockdowns were even invented. We tried to sort of involve people in hosting events, in ordering for the menu, or doing the cocktails, and then hosting the classes, all that sort of thing. Giving people charge of little areas is really great, and I think it keeps people going, I think.
You're one of the few bars I can think of that is I guess it's also sort of like there's so many facets to what you're doing, whether it be virtual tastings or an actual bottle store, as well as the bar and everything else. I guess that's kind of helped keep that growth going and keep that sort of keeping people engaged with your messaging, rather than it just being a bar or one bar or downstairs area there.
Yeah, I think that's partly to do with the fact that it's such a small space. I think you, Matt, might have said, how do you do so many things in one little space? And you're dead right. But I think to be an all-encompassing whiskey bar, you have to have your finger in so many pies, and I like that, and I think it helps us to be diverse, and also to give people extra jobs as well, and keep the work that the people are doing hopefully less mundane than just doing the bar or just filling juice bags. You can be doing so many different jobs. Yeah.
Waller, I want to ask you a question. Whiskey snacks.
Whiskey snacks, yes.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, and I want to actually dig into it a bit here. Is that all right?
Yes. Do you want me to go? I'm going to go get a few things, and I can show you whiskey snacks. All right. Okay. Well, it's more Boilermaker snacks, but they're snacks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, whatever. Yeah. Well, actually, whilst you're doing that, wait, take 2 minutes. Whilst you're doing that, I'm actually just going to show everyone on stream. Talking of Boilermakers, this month is actually the month where we've released the 2 different society beers that we've been working on, and it's really timely that Jules is here because he was integral as part of this one. The that's not the camera. There it is. That's the camera. I keep going over to that. Anyway. So this is the Carbonaro by Hop Nation. Now they took out a whole bunch of like they really smashed the Good Beer Week awards. They've really they did. You guys did an event with them as well, Jules, which was obviously just before lockdowns as well. And a Melbourne-based brewery, small batch beers, and this has been matured in an ex-Society 53 cask. Now, I've had a lot of questions elsewhere and in streams before saying, are the actual cans going to be available for sale? Yes, they are. They're going to be available on the night of the virtual. They're going to be on the site on the 30th, I think. I think the 30th of the month is the 30th of July is the, I keep saying August. I'm working ahead of myself here. 30th of July is the Boilermaker month. Of course, we also have the other Society beer, which is the Tempest Old Parochial, which is a Society Speyside barrel-aged Imperial Scotch Ale at 13%. That was matured in a mixture of Linkwood and Benriach casks predominantly, or we can say 12 and 39s. And that was, by Tempest Beer in the UK. So, I mean, I haven't got them here to crack right now. I'm going to crack them on the live stream on the end of the month. But, yeah. Will, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us. Let me put the caption up. Where are we? Where's it working? Technical hiccups.
So unprofessional. You could have told me that we were going to talk snacks.
But I made it up as I went along. That's the whole idea of Friday drinks.
Oh, right.
I'm not prepared.
So what do you want to know?
Well, what works for you? Where do you compare? Do you contrast? How do you do it? Because I've got salami sticks here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, right. This was all supposed to, this was all supposed to be going into the in a couple of weeks or whatever, but it doesn't matter. We talk about it now anyway.
We're gonna the pre-chat. It's gonna go in a couple of weeks, but we can also have
yeah. So it's probably more Boilermaker concept, the stuff that I've got here. But normally you need something that's going to I guess excite the palate, but you really need to break the profile in between the beer and the whiskey. The whiskeys are obviously very complex and all that other stuff that goes on inside of there are quite tactile in the mouth. And then the beer has that effervescence and everything else that's in that. And the malts are different in their characteristics to the whiskeys. But quite often, things like protein is always one of the best things, whether it be having whiskey or anything else, something with a little bit of salt. Obviously, and then even if you start talking about, bread or bready textures and stuff like that. So, it's the typical beer thing, but pretzels are by far, one of those easy snacks. Like, that's going to guarantee you consistency the whole way through because there's nothing else going on apart from bread and salt.
I think pretzels are the secret weapon of so many bars.
They are.
I remember it's Baxter Inn where if you sit down at Baxter, there's a bowl of pretzels always in front of you, and they just refill it. They're just constantly refilling the pretzels all on little bowls. So it means you're ordering more beers.
It does make you drink more though at the same time. But another thing that I find really, really good, especially when it comes to bourbon. Now I'll use these all the time actually at things like Whiskey Fair, Whiskey Live, all that type of thing. And I'll just bring in packets and packets of salted caramel popcorn. Now that stuff freaking rules when it comes to bourbons in particular, that saturated sweet sugar element. Bourbons love that type of action. But they do actually work very, very well. As long as your beers you aren't going for the red ales and things like that, they can work just as effectively. My go-to most of the time for, let's say, chips is, of course, normally actually I haven't tried these ones, the normal ones. Now don't judge me even though it says it's party size.
It's a judgment-free zone here tonight. This is a judgment-free zone. It's fine.
It's things like the honey soy chickens, whether it be Red Rock or someone else is doing one like that. That stuff just works so well. And you just need the smallest sort of snacks, things that aren't going to fill you up. This is with the risk. Yeah, cheeses are great, but you need them in small volume. Bread, you need that in small volume, or you're just going to keep eating it. Other things that I always find really, really good is, in fact, beef jerky.
Yeah.
Beef
Beef jerky works
rocks.
well. Beef jerky works well. Yeah.
It does. It does. But one of the coolest things. This is all just from my stash, by the way.
It would have been quicker to do what doesn't go with whiskey and beer, I think.
Okay. I discovered these recently, and they are roasted peanuts, sweet honey and sea salt roasted peanuts. But
right,
as far as these things are all like Boilermaker related, and this stuff I actually bought for what we're doing in regards to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to snacks, you've got to treat it like the word says, a snack, not a freaking meal. Otherwise, you're way down, and you end up drinking more beer than you do whiskey. So
right, yeah. Well, I mean, you can smash a few more beers, obviously, because they're lower proof. But yeah, I mean, it depends what beer you're drinking. If you're drinking those sort of heavy Scotch ales and porters that are all in that 13% range, then yeah, you're going to wipe out pretty quick, I reckon.
Yeah. No, it's snacks are good, but I've actually had some success, some marginal success, I would say, with things like Tim Tams and stouts.
Tim Tams and stouts, right? Yeah. Because a sweet, like a sweet biscuit with a biscuity flavor with a biscuity beer. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can almost not taste the chocolate due to the stout, but that biscuitiness and the cocoa or whatever's going on in there is pretty cool. It's dangerous. It's really weird eating a packet of Tim Tams while you're drinking a beer. But you know, you got to try.
You inhale a whole packet of Tim Tams, right?
But the one thing, I mean, you guys know the drill. But the one thing you've always got to impress on people, whatever snacks it is, it's like if your whiskey tastes like beer or whiskey, but if your beer tastes like cherries, let's say, you don't go and go, okay, I'm going to match a cherry ripe with that or something, because it'll just, one will cancel the other because they're the same flavor. And that's the one problem people always get when they first start to try and match things up, pair them up, they go for the same flavor. And it's like, no, it's not going to work.
Right. Just a comment from Scott Fitzsimon saying, snacks aside, let's see Alex put a society whiskey through that soda stream behind him.
It's within arm's right. I can do it right now. There you go.
I mean, I'm happy for you to do it. If you want to do it, I'll gladly highlight you and
do it.
You can soda stream a bottle of society whiskey if you want.
Do it.
I'll donate.
If I do that and it creates an amazing product, then what's the ownership? Do I own like Effervescent Society?
Spoken like a true lawyer. You know what? Spoken like a true lawyer. There's like, can we discuss ownership stakes on that idea before I've even done it?
Yeah, Scotty, if you draft up the full agreement with the society and me while we're on this stream, I'll do it when you give me a copy of that. Let's do that.
If it's a Distillery 42 highball, then we've already got it. Sorry. Those rock. Right. Distillery 42 highballs, yeah.
Mine doesn't have any of this other stuff, Jules. I'm not doing this, soda or any mixture at all. I'm just going straight to, you got to fizz up society whiskey. That's what the contract will say, mate.
And Robert has said a big shout out to the WNA charcuterie board too.
Oh, mate, those are great. We do have the charcuterie boards on purpose for the exact reason that you said, Willa, that the salt's really important, and a little bit of protein as well. And I think actually one thing that you didn't mention that I find really important when I'm matching food and whiskey and beer is that temperature. Temperature and whiskey don't match, like high temperatures anyway, don't match, because if you've got a warm mouth and you go putting alcohol in there, it just all evaporates and becomes really volatile in the mouth. And yeah, I think cold food is the way to go. Definitely.
Maybe the French are onto something with that whole them keeping their whiskey in the fridge.
Maybe,
yeah. There's a great comment here. I can't see who said this comment, but we should try completely literal food matches. 12.39 actually paired with sugared summer strawberries. That was the name of that whiskey. And 16.46 get some Texas barbecue in. And 54.55 eat a pine cone.
There'd be some you would definitely not want to do that with.
I'm now racking my brain with what some of the most undesirable names you could get away with, really.
I've got some pretty good ones.
Flies and cemeteries.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Dead flies and cemeteries or something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure that would be a desirable food match. Oh, literal food match. It was Liam. Liam said that. I thought that might be you, Liam. I thought that might be you.
A mortician's tennis shoe.
or waxing a hot woodsman, as Rob Atkins says here.
A hot woodsman. Yeah. shaving a hot woodsman.
And a little temperature from your palms will do. What was that?
Sorry, I was going to say, it's a good suggestion, actually, literal food, because you'd have to be careful, but you could do a couple of pretty good ones, like tea-smoked duck, tea-smoked salmon have been names. You could find exactly the right one, do a pretty nice dinner. It counters Willer's point a bit if you were doing exact like-for-like name and flavour matches. But
right.
Yeah, but name matches isn't the same as what it bloody tastes like. Come on.
Exactly. That assumes the paddles named it correctly, yeah.
I think. Well, I need to scroll back to was it Amit's comment who said
definitely interesting barebacking a duck.
Yikes! I mean, that'd just be like what, like a duck l'orange or something with barebacking a duck. Yeah, you could have duck fillet with it. But a little temperature from your palms will do a world of good to the whiskey on the nose. Does anyone else subscribe to that? The whole sort of I sometimes see, I see Andrew do that sometimes. Like, holds the glass in the palm to sort of warm it up and get the aroma circling a bit differently. Does anyone else do those kind of tricks or?
No. I do if I'm a bit rushed. I think I wouldn't do it if you've got time to sit on it and let it do it naturally. But if for some reason, I don't know, you're in a really cold room, like I did it in the Bunnahabhain Bond store, but that was basically to get it to room temp. I wouldn't do it unless you kind of had to warm it up to a ordinary ambient temperature.
Yeah, right. What have you got there, Jules? What have you picked out?
Whiskey wise, or the book?
No, what book was that? Murray's going to be here soon, so he'll definitely want to know what that is.
The Oxford Companion to Beer by Oliver. It's the best book on anything beer, and it has a section. It's like an encyclopedia, and it has like numerous pages on food pairing, and with any sort of beverage pairing, we first must consider the impact or intensity of the prospective partners. I like that. So yeah, if you do ever come across this, I highly recommend it because it has the food pairings for each beer style in it. And another chapter on food pairing. I highly recommend this book.
Who's the author on that one?
Garrett Oliver. Garrett Oliver is he's the editor. He's Garrett Oliver, and he's got some sections in it as well. He's the head brewer for Brooklyn Brewery.
Right.
Yeah, that's the one. Garrett Oliver.
Yep.
Up on the screen now in the comments.
Yeah, it's on the screen now if you want to. As a caption, just to see what that book was, because I'm really keen to get that actually, because I always feel like beer is one of those categories that I enjoy beer, but I've never really sort of gone super nerdy on the research of it. It's kind of like you spend so much time focusing on like spirit side of things that I think we should really like look at the beer side as to understand a bit more about the spirit side, perhaps. I don't know.
I remember vividly when we had Garrett Oliver at the bar. For one of our good Beer Week events. It was a massive occasion, and he actually drank 132.6 that night. I gave him some of that.
Oh wow,
a ripper. Anyway, he said, "I love to have an old fashioned when I go on an airplane. You know, you got an international flight. You need to make it real comfortable. You know, you prepare before you go. You know, you mix your favorite whiskey at home with some water, 2-to-1 sugar syrup." You put that like in a little shampoo bottle, you know. You put that in a little shampoo bottle. When you get up to altitude, you just press the call button. Excuse me, ma'am. Could you please bring me some ice in a glass? Yeah, that'd be perfect. Thank you. And then you crack out your little shampoo bottle and you just put that in there. It's been pre-watered down, pre-mixed. Yep, there you go.
Wow.
A little bit of bitters. You put it in there before 15,000 feet. You're having the perfect old fashioned. The way he said it was just so good. It had everyone in stitches. It was the best.
I just love the idea of just trying to scrape out every last skerrick of shampoo flavoring from the bottle before you make it. You're like, there's a bit of a shampoo note in this cocktail.
Well, I can't believe
describing, like the size. Yeah.
So he's involved with Brooklyn, is he?
Yeah, he's the head brewer for Brooklyn Brewery. Yeah, and he's in charge of their barrel program as well. Amazing stuff.
Because I met one of the guys from Brooklyn at your event in 2019.
Yeah, Miro. Yeah. He helped us get all of that happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. That was great. That was at like the takeover at the bar, almost like it was a Brooklyn tiki bar sort of thing, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah. Garrett came a few years before that, but yes, that's that same sort of roundup. Yeah.
There's no way that doesn't end up being a shampoo fashioned. I like that.
Tresemme fashioned.
Yeah. Tresemme
fashioned.
Yeah.
Although I think the Tresemme bottles are like 1 liter though, so it's not going to translate as well.
We got the long haul flights, mate. He's going across the pond, but we've got to get all the way in the northern hemisphere. We can do the liters.
Can you get a liter of shampoo onto a flight? So that's the other question you need to know, and then you can work out whether you're doing a liter of pre-batching or not.
What are you drinking? Morsey?
I'm on the honey burner. Oh, where's my camera? There you go. We all had it on the cruise for Melbourne members, and then I think it's been in the last. Was it the outturn before last? Maybe it made an appearance.
Yeah, I think even earlier it may have been like sort of. I thought it was May or maybe May
around the time of the cruise, but Society Highland Parks. It's my current. I'm off the really intense sherry casks just for the moment. I'm doing my how your flavour goes in ebbs and flows, but anything bourbon cask and with like a little bit of peat or a little bit of salinity is like my current sweet spot. Society Highland Parks or like lightly peated Isla societies. That's where I'm at.
Cool.
Cool. I mean, I get where you're coming from. Like that actual, I think that honey burner was two hoggies molded together. It was one of those sort of weird hybrid ones that Ewan worked on.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know how accurate it is on the label about saying that. What are you drinking, Jules?
So, Schmitty at the Distillery in Adelaide. Schmitty, he sent me some samples, and this is the Fluster Cluck that he's been making. I haven't quite mastered exactly what the blend is all about, but I tell you what, it's I remember it being like some sort of like crazy blend where he's put all sorts of different casks together and made a batch, but it's pretty interesting. I tell you what, it's got all these interesting sort of smoke smells and tastes that I haven't really come across before. Some of them resemble peat, some don't, and there's a lot of malty backbone, which is really cool. So pulling it apart and piecing it together.
Like, so it's a peated tin shed then, is it? Or
yeah, it seems like it. Yeah, from numerous different casks and maybe even spirit runs. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask him.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Someone's saying here the honey burner was delicious. It really was. It was such a well integrated whiskey, and that sounds fun. So is that like a project of his or something? Is that something coming up from Niquity? Is it?
I think it's already out. The Fluster Cluck. Yeah, part of the Anomaly series apparently.
Yeah, right.
It's pretty good. Very drinkable. Very, very drinkable.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Wool, what are you on today?
Well, I actually I don't have any society open at the moment. Shame on me. I cracked a bottle of gone a bit old school. I cracked a bottle of Hakushu 12 a couple of days ago. So I've just been churning through that. That's it. Very happy with that. Always happy with it. But it's funny though. Even like I've got 5 or 6 bottles left from a few years ago, back when they actually were affordable. And I still actually prefer the Distiller's release, the lower level to over this one. I just love the freshness that it offers over the 12-year-old. I love the 12-year-old, but I don't know, those lower levels when they brought them out, they were fantastic. So, but I don't have any of those. I just got to drink the old 12 instead.
Oh, it's a hard life.
It is. It's a tough. It's a tough.
Hashtag open your bottles.
I do have to open a society bottle, and what was it called? My next one I was going to open was the Cincinnati versus, what was it? Cincinnati versus or something. Cincinnati.
New York versus Cincinnati. It was an 82.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Cracking
that's going to be my next bottle.
You know what?
Yeah.
The spirit that comes out of that distillery, out of Distillery 82, is I think some of my favorite spirit quality out of Scotland at the moment. Like seriously unbelievable. Like even like we've had a few releases at 7, 11, 14-year-old casks from that distillery that I think are just outstanding, truly outstanding stuff. Speaking of truly outstanding people include one of our next guests joining the stream. She's coming for a good time, not a long time, because she's not feeling tremendous at the moment. So please welcome Harriet Lee to the stream. Harriet, welcome to the stream.
Hi.
Welcome.
I thought I'd be truly sacrilegious and drink wine.
Oh, really?
It's wine made by a distiller. So I'm drinking Unico Zello's Fiano Alluvium, I think it's called. Yeah, Alluvium, from the guys at Applewood down in Adelaide.
Right.
Cool.
Is South Australia in lockdown?
Yeah.
So I thought I'd toast to them.
Well,
Quite miserable. We're 4 weeks in, probably, to anyone who's going into a lockdown now.
We're South Australian members and friends.
4 weeks out of 12 probably here.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier, you and I, just about how long this might look like. It's like how long is a piece of string, but sort of like it could be sort of that September bets that we're placing.
I would put money on end of September or later. Yeah.
Cool.
Numbers aren't looking good, and we need to get our vaccinations up. It's just like the numbers keep going up, even though we've been locked down for 4 weeks. So anyway, this is boring and depressing.
You know what? Actually, whilst you're here, Harriet, this is as good a time as ever to actually do a bit of a sneak peek, because I know some members were messaging about this earlier. So I'm just going to bring this up on screen. Let's see if this even works. You know what? This is all. Oh, here we go. Look at that.
Oh, it's so sexy. What is that, Matt?
It's the front cover of our August outturn. Woo! So it's still 2 weeks until outturn comes out, and the full outturn will be available next Friday for viewing, which will make things a lot easier. But that's the front cover, or a trim of it at least. And it says, Australia, we made it. Because it's celebrating our first ever Australian whiskey with 147.1 Jacaranda Jam. A distillery you're well acquainted with there, Harriet, I would say.
I have heard of them. Yeah. I do think, though, like there are so many distilleries that could have easily been ahead of us with our so many great Australian distilleries. But what an honor. Like, we've been friends for quite a few years, Matt, and Archie's been a partner bar for, I think, is it 5 years?
Yeah, I think it was 5. I think you wrote 4 in your intro, but it was actually 5. Yeah.
Was it 5? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, what an honor, what an amazing honor. But also, I think it's just a great accolade for the country as a whole that the Scotch Malt Whisky Society is looking at our distilleries and taking them seriously, and as they should, because there's so much great spirit coming out of this country. But there could have been, there could have been so many other firsts for Australia. Like, what an honor for us. We're really stoked. And I think are there some others coming, Matt, behind us? Is there some other? Yeah,
that's a really good question, and the answer is yes. I mean, this is the first of we've got. I mean, I've answered this question a few times to members who have asked, what's happening with Australian whiskey in the society, and the answer is we've got casks sitting around at different distilleries all over the place at the moment. But this is really where we want to start, and we've got the next one, which is earmarked for later on, and is going through bottling line very shortly. So we're very excited by that.
But I just think, as a Australian whiskey drinker from long back, 20 years of living in Australia and drinking whiskey here, so good to see Australian distilleries being taken seriously and being appreciated and being shared, and for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society to be looking at us, it's phenomenal. It's really phenomenal. I think, honestly, in the 6 years or 7 years of Archie Rose, there's been a lot of really, exciting things and awesome moments and stuff. But this is probably possibly my favorite, really. Like, it's really such a pinch me, remember it moment. I know Dave, who's had a long history with you guys, is incredibly honored and excited. Everyone is. It's awesome. And to be a partner bar is even awesome.
Yeah.
You know, we've got so many brilliant bottlings on the back bar, but
you do, yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
If you've got any spare, if they don't sell out, Matt, we'd love a couple more bottles.
Yeah, if they don't sell out, I love your optimism there. Actually, I'll just remark on the I'll just remark on the fact that just on the topic of lockdowns and everything going on with the distillery at the moment, and just getting an idea of those who work directly in the industry actually get their hands dirty, unlike us reprobates that just enjoy drinking it and get to work in it on a different side of it. Your team have all been like repurposed, like the bar team and everything, haven't they?
Yeah, we're so lucky, and we're really lucky. All the bar team working on the bottling line and packing line. And, initially it felt a bit, we did this last year as well, but we mainly did it with hand sanitizer, but now we've got a few products coming out. So we've just got a lot of stuff to do, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But last year, there were a couple of people who weren't sure they wanted to do it. And I had to remind them, like, in year one, everyone, like Will and Dave, me, all of the staff, everyone bottled everything we sold and put out, And then if someone didn't get their delivery, someone would put it in the back of their car and drive it over to them. So I know the company's grown like an enormous amount, but back in the day, everyone, and we used to do stupid things, like we used to hand date and sign, and every bottle was one of 190. We did everything.
I was there for it. Yeah, I was there for it when that was happening. And we had this what do you call it? I was on the production line for, I think, the first vodka.
Were you?
Yeah. And I was we were labeling every bottle, and then we had a box full of markers, and we were numbering every bottle as well.
Yeah.
And
I love that we thought that was sustainable.
Yeah.
If you did the handwriting, the two worst jobs were handwriting and then putting the cork in.
Oh,
we still have a fairly labor-intensive bottling line, but now they have a rubber mallet. And the first time I saw ops using that, I was like, genius, because whoever was doing that, after about 50 bottles, would get the cramp and have to swap. But the handwriting, I think, was the worst, because you're sort of trying to bend around a bottle and I
did the handwriting. It was like bottled by or something.
Yeah.
And so there's at least 200 and something bottles of Archie Rose vodka that had MB on the side of them, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Good. Yeah,
that's a collector's piece now.
Oh yeah, sure.
Were you guys handwriting on the label after it had been put on the bottle?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's
stupid.
That's an extra challenge. That's like, I thought you had a stack of labels and at least you were just, production lining them off. But wow,
we were, and I love that you've just said that. Like, wow,
it's like writing on a Christmas present after it's wrapped.
Yeah. There's been so many times where we've got smarter and better, but originally it was just all hands on deck and get it done, And so there's something romantic about everyone just pulling together again and doing it. And I think all of the bartenders you just feel like they're actually, some of the guys went into coopering, and so they were just taking out all their anger with a mallet and smashing some hoops down on some casks and getting their anger out. But they did it with such good nature, like such good humor, and I think they kind of enjoyed it, even though that is backbreaking work. Like, I know, Matt, you always say you wouldn't want to be a distiller, but I think being a cooper is slightly worse. Like, you've got to have some tough hands to do that job.
Oh yeah. A few years ago, I got a chance to see Speyside Cooperage in action.
Oof.
And that's has anyone else here been to Speyside Cooperage?
No.
It's phenomenal.
Are they big burly guys with hands that are just calluses?
No, they just look like normal dudes who are like some guy who's like mid 5 foot just punching a cask together, and his hands look like they're made of absolute leather and stone. But it's incredible to see the speed and even accuracy of what they're building. I mean, I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but it's something like, they're pushing a cask out every 5.5 minutes from each person, can do one every 5 or 6 minutes or something. So, and they think that, like, if you gave me a whole bunch, just a table full of staves, heads, and hoops, it would take me probably 2 days. working out, getting the angles right and everything, and hammering bits and that little bit of bamboo.
I'd also have to just have a little cry halfway.
Yeah. I would stop at the end of the first day and go, I'm done with this. I hate this. I can't do this anymore.
I think I'd stop at the end of the first cast. I'd be like, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's super impressive when they gravitate, if you're gravitating staff to coopering, because I remember just being absolutely staggered at how long the apprenticeship process for coopers is.
Yeah.
Like you can become a doctor or a lawyer in the same amount of time, like in terms of education. And so, to be quickly picked up from where you are and just, you're a cooper now is actually pretty impressive.
Yeah. I think they loved it. And I also think like a bunch of the staff who work in the bar love all of they come to work at Archeros because they love the whole distillery side and the manufacturing. And so they kind of see it as just sort of rounding off their education. And Lisa, who's one of our distillers, just gave them the best onboarding. She was so kind and careful, and then sent me the best report about them, saying they've just been such a, been an honor to the bar, or done a great job, which is awesome. But now they're all on the filling line, and those guys are probably feeling like they're on the more mundane side of things, but they're working, and we've hired a couple of other people who couldn't get any kind of assistance because we're pretty busy, which is great. It's great.
Yeah, great. It's so good.
But there's also like people like Burrow Bar in Sydney who are working through at their own expense and making meals up for bartenders who haven't got any income or got the government assistance, which even at $600 is pretty poor. So there's a lot of people who are pulling together, and I think that's just the best of Australia, really, the best of hospitality, that everyone are looking after each other.
Yeah, it is. It's so great that they're so willing and able to actually literally go from sort of like shaking drinks to a production line work as well.
Yeah,
and actually
I think also those guys are like at Burrow or us. Like I think Burrow aren't even very able. Like they're literally relying on people's donations. So if anyone out there wants to give some cash, if you're still employed and have some spare money to them, they're literally giving people meals who are worrying about paying their rent the next probably 8 or 10 weeks. Like it's pretty scary out there for hospo.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's wild at the moment. It's truly wild, and especially you mentioned Burrow because they've got a new space, new kitchen, new everything. Like that wouldn't have been a cheap fit out. It's a whole new bar essentially, where they moved out of their old venue and into a new one. Yeah.
And they're also just the best guys with an amazing back bar. So when they're open, if everyone should, if you can in Sydney, go down and drink some of their really weird bottles they've got in the back bar because they've got a great collection.
Yeah, Bryce always prides himself on that quirky collection he's got there.
It is quirky.
It is quirky. It's a weird collection of whiskeys and rums on that bar.
It is.
Yeah.
And also like just the most beautiful hospitality. I love those guys. And slightly illegally, if you're there after midnight, they might let you stay. And you might.
We didn't hit them fast enough to mute that part. Sorry. It
was my Wi-Fi. They're beautiful people, and I really admire them for doing what they're doing at the moment because they don't have any cash and they're doing it on the smell of an oily rag. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, really awesome. Just going back to those photos just for a second, just to give everyone some context of our first local bottling. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but and I also don't remember how to bring up the full screen of it. There we go.
That's Pavel.
That's Pavel, and that's him doing heat gun sealing on the society capsules there,
which is a tough job actually to make it look good.
Yeah, to make it look uniform, and they have to be around the right way, and they have the little seal. There's all these little details on society bottles that I had to learn about, which I didn't even know about after even holding them for years of just of things which are part of the process, and that includes things like the little black tear seal has to be on the back of the bottle. It can't just be sort of placed anywhere, and things like that, which we all had to be really careful of on the production line. And this is admittedly it's not a negative thing, but the bottling line at Archie is very is quite old school.
We're putting a new one in eventually.
Eventually, I know it's coming. And there wasn't a criticism. It was just like it's for a distillery that's going to that level of scale already. It's you'd almost think
it's a few benches.
It's a few benches, a couple of heat guns, and one and one micron filter sort of thing. It's like great. But it was a real process in terms of just building that out and getting the production line running, and seeing it all come to life, which was just incredible. knowing that we've been able to actually bottle this locally. Now, I know that's a small thing in the grand scheme of things, but it's kind of like every other independent Australian bottling I've seen have always been bulk spirit shipped to the UK, bottled in the UK, and then a portion of sent back to Australia, which I always see as a little bit disappointing. It's like it's not really sort of like this. First of all, you're adding in, thousands of kilos of greenhouse gases straight away in terms of getting it there and back again, and shipping glass there and back again, and shipping spirit there and back again. It seems like an awful waste. And whereas like all we had to do was ship the glass capsules and corks over and get the labels made, and then we were set. And
way better.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of it's obviously our glass is fully recyclable, but it's like the glass, they all come from I think they all come from 5 or 6 different countries even, but they're consolidated and sent over. But it's rather than shipping spirit over, which I think was just a better option to do.
It's something the whole industry has to look at. Like sustainability is something that everyone has to start really working out how all these pieces come together and where they travel back and forth, because we're certainly looking at that, and we're 7 now, but we're starting to really analyze all that stuff. And there's so much waste and there's so much CO2 that happens. I mean, producing spirit alone is, uses a lot of resources, a lot of water, a lot of energy, a lot of glass, a lot of paper, all sorts of stuff. And so wherever you can cut that down is a win. Every time you make a little win, it's a little tick.
From your perspective at Whisky and Helmet, Jules, what have you seen in terms of the just any changes you've had to make or see, or like for yourselves in that realm of things? Sorry,
you just broke up there for a sec, mate. Say that again.
Just like your perspectives on any sort of environmental changes you've seen happen over at Whisky and Helmet over the last few years.
Oh yeah, certainly. The way things have been packaged and sent to us from overseas has really developed over the last few years. Particularly, I've just got a bottle from Brooklady Distillery from Feshila, and it came with this amazing Hexiflex packaging, which is really incredible stuff. Oh, he's cracking it out. There we go. Someone else is onto it.
That wasn't even planned. That wasn't even planned, by the way. That was literally just sitting on my desk.
Yeah, and it's just all made out of cardboard, but so incredibly engineered that there's no way that it could that the bottles could be damaged. I think that bulk postage and bulk shipping of bottles is one thing, but when we get a lot of whiskey clients in Australia, particularly, no doubt clients of the society, they like importing their own little bottles, like one bottle here, one bottle there, and quite often those go air freight. And if you're talking about CO2 whatever, for that's the ultimate, and usually it comes in a very elaborate box with lots of plastic and all that sort of thing. So I think the fact that's changing now, that's really great. And I think keeping away from air freight is the best thing we can do, and like using local suppliers is that get things brought over in bulk by sea is a far better way to do things. So that's probably the biggest thing I've witnessed. I tell you what though, something I do want to see is a few brands now are sending like plastic sleeves around the outer packages of their tins. And it's just so much extra, like unnecessary stuff, just so that a little scuff doesn't get on the outside of your tin. It's like, come on, really? Do I care that much? Like, I find that really annoying.
It's funny that I would have no problem with that if it was sort of like if it was sort of decided that there would be an extra sort of plastic film around something that maybe is $1,000 a bottle. And it's or it's maybe a gift or something like that, and maybe that should be an option at the moment. Maybe it shouldn't. I don't know. It's just that I think on everything would be a tremendous waste of extra plastic.
The old Brooklady tins, those things went rusty if they got wet or if they got scratched. But that was part of the love of it. It was great.
I used to turn my old Brooklady tins into pot plants, and I'd fill them full of soil. And this is in my old place, and we'd fill them full of soil and grow a plant out of it or grow some veggies out of it. And eventually, because they're in the weather, they don't even look like Brooklady tins after about 2 months. They just look like these sort of tins that were turned into something else. So the zombie tins after a while.
Yeah, tetanus, pure tetanus.
Tetanus tin. Yeah.
I reckon you're right though, Wooler. It's like if you're buying something that's for the charm, that's all fine. And then the problem is probably part of this thing, this modern day collectible thing. And, like Jules says, if the fear of getting a scuff, you've got people sending bottles of something that's meant to be a drinking, enjoyable product. They're sending them back because like the box has a mark on it. And it's like, well, that means my product's ruined. And it's just like, that's just a strange world to be living in when you're buying a consumable good. But I do reckon as well, if you're buying a big bulk produced whiskey, you should absolutely do all those things and everyone should get their mind around that. I think maybe conceptually it's harder when people are buying that one bottle, just because if your bottle breaks, it's not as simple as going back to the supplier and going, oh, can you just resend that? Because if you bought an auction item or you've bought a random single bottle or something, I think it's just a mindset thing, because if the packaging's great and it works, there's no difference. But I think people are so hooked up on how it's worked for a while with those singles that they'll take a bit longer to.
I think everyone's, sorry to cut you off a little bit, but I think everyone's looking at it now. I mean, Johnny Walker's latest packaging in there, like, I think it's paper based, but the Johnny Black sort of, like a squarish cylinder. It's amazing, right? Like big companies like Diageo are looking at how it can be done. I mean, that's not a bar-friendly product. I don't think you put a pourer in it. It's for someone at home. But I think a lot of brands are starting to look at it like, how can we do it better? So it's like, I think it's at the fore for most people. And now it's just a case of getting there and sharing the knowledge as quick as you can so that everyone else can do it too, right? I really think that no one feels good at night when they go home and they know that their packaging is not sustainable or could be better. Like we all got rid of straws and like that, right? We just all realized it collectively. Hang on a minute. We're actually putting straws in drinks and bars. We all realized it within I think from the first adopters to the whole industry, certainly in Sydney, changing was about 12 months. It's pretty quick. People don't want to be part of the problem. And I think most companies that have any packaging waste are looking at it and trying to work it out. And there's going to be a couple of years before you end up seeing it on every bottle that goes to even the big guys at Dan's, where they're taking them in by the pallet. They'll be serving them in sustainable ways, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Or you'll be like the old guy still serving your fish and chips in a polystyrene container. You're like, what? Polystyrene?
You got to look at the way the industry works. Well, not just the industry, but just the Australian industry or government, or the way it's like cars. When I was doing work with Volkswagen and Mercedes, these things were, to get their rebates for import to make it cheaper, they had to build a certain amount of the car here. So they would ship whole portions of it over here in parts, assemble it here, then ship it back to Germany to then put it together with the car to ship the car back here again. Because technically a certain portion of the vehicle was assembled in Australia, therefore they got their tax down on it. But that's breeding in the whole problem as it is. So, I mean, the whiskey industry can make, or the drinks industry can make a degree of change, that's for sure, or difference.
Yeah, and I also think that the consumer and the producer are both in on it way quicker than the government is. Like the government may come in with some tariffs in 20 years' time where they start imposing penalties on people, but both producers who either want to do it ethically or want to do it because it's the right thing to do and it keeps them up at night, and then people with their buying power are going to buy stuff that's more ethical, especially if you're just, you're not buying a celebratory, this is for my father-in-law on his 70th birthday kind of piece, but I'm buying a whiskey at an affordable price point. People are going to start moving towards more ethical things, and the government is probably going to be 10 years behind everyone else, hopefully. I mean, I'm sure.
Great comment there. Look at how the industry used to be. They had reusable containers instead of cardboard, and chips used to be served in paper. I can't see who's written that, but it's not too far off. I'm just going to bring up the one part about Outturn I want to just touch on as well tonight. Big shout out to Luke McCarthy, who's written the part one, who's there serving at Whiskey now, and has written part one of the Australian whiskey journey. Some of the photos that we've managed to source and show members and print in the Outturn coming up are just phenomenal, and a real sort of like a look at where we've been and where we're going. which is a part of the whiskey industry, I think the Australian whiskey industry, that is not discussed nearly enough and is never touched on really. Luke's written this fascinating article about the early days of distilling in Australia, and it was a juggernaut. And I know some people already know that, but it's just, we often think, the first misconception is that, Australian whiskey was born in 1992, which is something that is obviously dispelled over and over. But the second part that is often discredited, you can see here, Wardhope and Coroni, I think it says 1949 Sydney. So there's look at this. If you can just imagine the size and scale of those stills based on the bloke standing next to them, those are big stills. Those are massive, massive stills. Those are Scotch whiskey, established Scotch whiskey distillery sized stills right there, and it's a part of the Australian distillery history that Luke's written about, and just gives a sense of scale to what was happening in Australia, which I find absolutely fascinating. It's a part of our history, and there's a photo of the Victoria Parade Brewery and Distillery, and that's a drawing, sorry, but it gives a sense of scale to how big it was even in that drawing. These were massive sort of industrial sort of places, and it was written about as well. And there's plenty of articles, and there's an advertisement for no purer spirit in the world than Australian whiskey. Stick to the good Australian whiskies in the Australian style there to the bottom.
Think about it, Matt.
What was the Australian style is the question.
Well, it makes total sense when you reflect, because if you're talking about countries producing a commodity, you've got a country that is effectively, for that period at least, was dominantly pastoral, and you've got a lot of major access to coast for shipping. Yeah. So it just makes sense that you'd be growing a lot of stuff and making a lot of stuff out of it. I
would imagine back then they had cheap labor as well compared to now.
Exactly right. And so you got the perfect trifecta of producing some sort of farm-based product. And so people are sort of like, really did Australia have all this production? You kind of think, well, would almost be crazier if we didn't.
I wonder as well if the freight was much cheaper going back, because you'd have empty ships leaving to go back.
Great point. Yeah.
Did you see that collection that there was in the AFR last week that's up for sale?
Yeah, that was where that was the same article that Max reviewed 147.1.
It was. I heard from somebody what the guy's asking for that, just in case anyone's looking to buy the start of a great Australian museum. It's around the 600K mark. That's right. Yeah, Greg said it was sort of mid 500s, low $600,000 mark for that collection. I mean, there's a couple of people I know that are starting serious collections of historic whiskies. I mean, obviously, people like Dave are doing it for fun, and Matt, I'm sure you've got far too much whiskey sitting under desk somewhere for fun. But someone's got to do something like this because there's such a great long history. And it's a very niche and expensive collection as well. And it's pretty much, I mean, between the five of us in this chat, we could probably know exactly who would buy that collection as well. Yeah. But I do think that there's an interest, right? Like, I think that we've got such a long history. I mean, Dave always loves to say that the first legal license in Australia was issued before Scotland. And there is, I think, 3 or 4 years before, the first legal license of Glenlivet, that's right, was in Australia. Yeah, but anyone in Scotland will swear at you that the only reason why no one had a license is because fuck the English. But it's a great claim, but it also shows that this industry's been around for a very long time. And there's this sort of modern concept that it's just a 90s phenomenon, like it's a modern era thing. But there's these great documents, and we should be establishing, I mean, when I say we, someone rich, Matt, should be establishing a museum somewhere. So that I'm joking. Should be like showing. We should have somewhere to go and appreciate all of this.
Someone's just got to sell a bottle of their Macallan 1940, and they can basically buy the whole thing. Yeah, I think there's great potential for something like that. To you think about it as $500,000 or whatever, but at the same time, I reckon it has potential to draw its own revenue and pay itself off to the right. Should the government be buying it? Yeah, well, that's what I proposed a long time ago. Yeah. I think the Australian Distillers Association could buy it, for instance. Yeah. And put it on display and tour it around. I think that would go really, really well.
Do you think they know about it? Like, do you think the ADA know about it?
Oh, maybe not. You're right, but
they probably should know about it. It should be maybe it's just a case of some awareness they need.
Well, yeah. Okay.
So
well,
someone in there would. That's right. Someone in there would, and so it's probably just more like Jules. What you're getting at there is that maybe it just hasn't been thought of that way. And people always think about whiskey these days as like, personal collections, and Facebook's full of it, Instagram's full of it. But if you've got a collection like that, it's all about showing it and like not having it in a cupboard, right? And so then it makes more sense for a foundation or a museum to have it. Yeah.
I think if money's on your mind as well, like you could make more money out of it, I reckon, by displaying it properly and telling the story like you would when you go to a museum, as you say, Harriet. I think it could be used to do so much more than just be a showpiece.
This is a great little ad here, a little sort of poem, if you like, peculiar to whiskey. Australian whiskey has risen by 2 cents a bottle, and a penny a nip.
2 shillings, surely.
Shillings, probably, yeah, shillings, sorry. The increased costs which forced the whiskey rise were peculiar to whiskey. And there's a poem which you can read there. I can put that in the thread later. But I like that beer and brandy, gin and rum, they cost no more to drink. Drabury, Pernod, Vanderhum, they do not sting the stinker. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah,
awesome. What year is that from? I can't see. Is there a date on there?
There's no date on it, but I think I could find out the date on it. But it was
these guys, Matt, all these people online being like, we're the investors who picked the rise of rare whiskey. We're the early adopters of that. Need to be told what year this was. They were calling it. Don't collect rum. Don't collect brandy. Jeez, collect whiskey now.
Yeah, exactly. And there's all sorts of articles throughout the years, especially if you're searching through sort of 1950s and 60s of Melbourne water good for whiskey, and a director of Tops Whiskey, Mr. A.W. Tops, from another whiskey brand I'd never heard of, and ads for Tollies. I thought it was Scotch until I counted my change. So, and there was a lot of
you could still say that to a lot of consumers in Australia that go, I want some Australian Scotch.
Yeah. I want some Aussie Scotch and some Japanese Scotch and some
smooth and sweet. Still make Tollies.
Hear it all the time.
I think one of the things that led to this big demise of these, massive whiskey producers was the change in tariffs. I don't remember the date, but at some point they actually lowered the duties on imported products to a point where they became a lot more competitive, if not more competitive than the locally produced. And so I think that's where the Australian producers really got lost and got run over, was by when those tariffs were changed.
Yeah, right. So a lot of it was taxation related.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And trade deals, I suppose, Jules. It's always that thing of any international product, just sometimes you can't see behind the curtain, but, it might be a UK-Australia deal, which is, you don't make your whiskey products more expensive than we can bring it into your country and we'll give you cheaper XYZ product. So sometimes you just get cursed by the current deal.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some, this is the Joshua Brothers Distillery, this one, that was a Melbourne-based distillery, Victorian. I mean, the distilling scene was in Victoria, a lot of it, especially the large scale. And they had coffee stills, they had pot stills. You can see boiler heads, mash tun. It was quite an operation with quite a massive staff as well. So this is an era of incredible production that was going on, and always trying to compete with Scotch whisky imports. And even drawings from that era give you a sense of the scale. You can see the bloke in the bottom right of the drawing. There's 5 steps beneath that pot still there.
Oh yeah,
it's unbelievable. And there's a second level where there's another chap standing on that second level on the still there on the right. He looks like he's wearing a face mask. He's very much with the times at the moment.
Spanish flu.
Yeah.
Yes, different decade, same problem.
Different plague.
Matt, just going back to 147.1, we were really talking before about how it's all been bottled in Australia and going to stay here, I presume, because we couldn't send this back to the UK. Are they going to get any of it?
Yeah, it's a good question. It was bottled here, and we're sending. They're getting. We yielded. It was 124, I think, bottles from the cask, or I should say 124.5 bottles from the cask. So
what happened to the 0.5?
Well, that was all. It has only yielded that much from the cask. So it was 124.5 bottles yielded from the cask, and here's one of the halves. And it was. That was all bottled, and we're sending 6 bottles only.
And is it legally whiskey in the UK?
No, it's spirit drink in the UK.
Is that
different label?
Well, they can't call it. They can't call it whiskey.
Yeah, of course not. No. But we should have thought about that.
No, that's all right. That's what we thought about it, though. That's okay. I mean, that's why they're only getting 6, and they'll probably serve one they'll probably open one at the vaults. They'll probably open one at Queen Street or something like that. And then they'll put maybe 4 into archive or so, because if those who have been to the vaults will remember the .1's archive up the top of the on top of the cabinets, where it's the first bottle from each distillery code released over time, and we're up to 150 now actually. So 150 is just going into production at the moment, which is very exciting.
If they're not selling the bottle though, they don't need to change the label. They're not selling the bottle.
No, they're just selling it by the dram, so they just. Yeah.
Did you change the label? Did you do 6 bottles with a different label?
That is right. We did. Yes, there are 6 bottles with a UK label that were bottled on the production line that day.
Love it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's
there's
cool.
a UK label on the UK back label. So therefore, that UK back label .1 is probably far more. It's like you've got to have one of each from in your collection or something. It would be one of the rarest bottles to ever find. I guess, but. Our local one's got the Australian back labels, but the UK one's got the UK ones. I had a spindle of each for the labels, and with only needing to label 6, I think I was left over with maybe 494 UK back labels, just in case I need them in future. Sure.
So Matt, is there a plan to do some kind of virtual class or something with these?
Yes, there is. Thank you for asking. In the outturn, which I don't have a physical copy of just yet. There's a virtual tasting which incorporates 147.1, and I can actually announce now as well. I may as well say it now whilst we're live, that we have, of course, the master distiller Dave Withers joining us on that virtual as well, which is going to be a lot of fun. So that's going to be great, and that's obviously
he's almost as handsome as you.
almost.
Oh, not quite.
Not quite. So there's a question here from Scott Mansfield. Who owned these distilleries? He's referencing those big ones we were showing before on screen. UDV owned some of them. It's really some of them were owned also by different breweries in Australia at the time as well. I'll need to dig into that question a bit more, Scott. Does anyone has any other sort of answers there for me? But I don't have any other answers. Sorry.
I usually refer to Luke McCarthy on that one.
Yeah, that's probably more of a Luke McCarthy question. We'll have to have him on for a live stream leading up to the outturn, which would be good. But yeah, he's not much of a video guy, but I'm sure I can convince him to get on a live with us. That might be a bit of fun. So that's on that point. That's where we're up to with the 147.1. I didn't think there's any other photos I want to show at the moment. They're all to sort of give a sense of scale of what we've been doing. And then the part 2 article was what Andrew Durbridge has written about the journey from sort of 92 to 2014, sort of that era of Australian whiskey, which is a really exciting sort of part of it as well. I'd like to welcome our final guest into the stream, the biggest whiskey book nerd to ever exist on planet Earth. This guy has read the Alfred Barnard book upside down, underwater, and first edition backwards. He knows more about whiskey literature, so he actually might be able to identify some of these photos as well that I was just showing before. Please welcome into the stream, Mr. Murray Muzzman Hassan. Thank you so much for coming along.
Hey, good to see you guys.
How was that intro? Was that okay? Are you okay?
Oh, jeez, you've upsold me. Hell,
so late.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah, how you been?
Oh, not bad, not bad. I am dressed in clothing I was in the office, so I did all the right things and hand sanitizing and checking in and all that fun stuff. So yes, I've come from the office and now enjoying a dram and not a whiskey, a cognac.
Oh, what are you drinking?
C 2.1.
Ah, you were telling me about this. Yeah.
Yes.
What was the name on that one?
That is exquisitely polished.
Yeah, that's it.
And I remember the proof was eye-watering on that one from memory.
Yeah, I don't think I've had a 67% cognac before.
No. Yeah, that's definitely eye-wateringly high-proof cognac. Yeah.
Yeah. It's cognac plus.
What do the French say about that? It's more than formidable, surely. More than that.
The next two cognac cask names you've just invented. More than formidable and cognac plus are going to be the next sea casks, guaranteed.
I totally like that. I'm in for that. They can have them.
Murray, you can't wear a shirt with vertical stripes because those books behind you, you're blending straight in with them.
Also on my screen, there's a guy that's below you with checks in blue and white as well, and you look like you're seaming perfectly into
so much class.
Yeah, I know.
Very on brand.
Sort your shit out, Murray.
He's just perfectly on brand.
Yeah. I don't know how the order's going. I can always mix it up a bit and see if people sort of rearrange somehow, but I don't know how that works.
No.
Need to work out that.
Yeah, that's just confusing people if I move around.
Yeah.
And yes, behind me in this particular shelf I'm pointing to is the majority of the whiskey book collection. So
Amazing.
that's all sitting there. But I was seeing a few of the things before in the comments, and I agree with Scott Mansfield's comment. We need a contemporary Australian equivalent of Barnard. We need someone to roam all the Aussie distilleries and do that. I know that there was Lonely Planet did a global distillery tour book, and I know Archie's mentioned in there, and I know a few others, Australian ones, but it's sort of an overall world distillery guide. By the time it was printed, it was already out of date. So, yeah.
This is kind of the problem with like writing a book about, especially in an industry that's growing as quickly as Australia is.
Yeah.
Writing a book about Australian distilleries, by the time you get it published, even if it was just digitally published, it's out of date.
Yeah.
Get Kadelka back on a bike with First Dog and do part 2. That's what we all want to see. We want the next installment. They only did Tassie. Let's get them to do the mainland.
On a bike, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. You know,
he can do it. If anyone can do it, he could.
Rose to lime burners on a push bike. Brilliant.
That sounds like an awesome.
You'll be a lot more crowdfunding than last time, I reckon.
How many people die on this trip?
Well, there's only 2 to choose from. So.
And every
choose?
chapter,
Do we get to choose?
At the start of every distillery chapter, it has to talk about the weather and the person that was driving the horse and cart as well, and talk about, you know, the lovely ridges and flowers and the level of the weather and all this sort of thing like Barnard does. I think that would be really interesting.
Totally, yeah. And Julian, I can tell you've read Barnard too. Yeah.
Julian, I have to ask, how's Brooke?
Yeah, really well. She's doing great. Yeah.
I hear she's like 8.5 months pregnant or something.
Yeah, like maybe next week. The baby's going to be popping out, which is awesome.
Cool.
So exciting.
Congrats, man.
Thank you. Back to Barnard.
Yes. There was a guy, I can't remember the name of him. He was a sales rep for one of the big conglomerates in the 70s and 80s, who actually did do a footsteps in the footsteps of Barnard, and it got a very small publication run, and it's hard to track down. I saw it on an auction site, but then, you know, I'm not paying £250 for a book, you know, that mimics Barnard.
Yeah, right. I think the most I've spent on whiskey books in terms of hunting down old copies of things were things like Pip Hill's book. Yeah, because it's really hard to find sort of a half decent looking copy of Appreciating Whiskey or Scots on Scotch kind of things. And they're fun books. I know he didn't really write Scots on Scotch. It was sort of like a collection of different people who wrote things for him. It was basically Unfiltered magazine part 1, really.
Yeah, actually, that's a good way of describing it.
But yeah, I mean, Appreciating Whiskey was actually a really helpful book for me as well. I mean, just to learn from that stuff. But what have you picked up recently that has sort of sparked your interest?
I was going to bring out one. I need to track it down. Hang on. Okay. These two.
Whose body falls out of the cupboard.
Thanks. Yeah. You were mentioning
Kill the stream.
Appreciating Whiskey. This is one without a dust jacket, and that's the That's the front page of it. Probably can't see that, but it's a book that Pip Hills wrote with the Scotch Whisky Research Institute. At the time, it was known as Pentlands. And that's always a good go-to. I agree, Matt. It's pretty heavy going, though. It's goes deep into whiskey appreciation and sensory evaluation, right into the chemistry of it all. On that same note, because I'm a tragic with textbooks. Whiskey, technology, production, and marketing.
Can you show us that cover?
The classic.
Yeah.
Wow, I love it. I'd love to read that book.
It's actually very, very good, but it's the essentially the American version of Science and Commerce of Whiskey, which was done by Ian Buxton. It just got a second edition late last year.
Oh, right.
So the first edition was 2014, the second edition 2020 of that. I have that somewhere. I've got piles of books, as you can tell. But the other one is an old one that I picked up. It's called The Original Scotch by Michael Brander.
Hold that up again. Sorry, Murray. Right.
Cool.
What year was that published?
Cool.
And this
typesetting there.
Yeah, some serious typesetting. It's Clarkson Potter. It's 1975.
Cool.
So that is it's a really interesting. He's picked up bits and pieces and good illustrations. A lot of things very, very similar to the sketches you've seen already. Old classic things there. And bothies and various inns and so on. There's a fair bit about the history, going into the history, and he's gone back to original source documents. So he's gone to Barnard, but he's also gone to some of the historical things. It's a good reference overall. Scott, you're reading Science and Commerce. Yeah, that's a textbook.
Yeah.
Literally, it's a textbook.
Oh yeah.
Now, Murray, you haven't got your hands on J.A. Nettleton's book, do you?
The Holy Grail, no. Manufacturer of Whiskey and Plain Spirit.
Oh, that's the one.
That's the one. Now, I know someone, Matt, we know someone who's got the reprint that was done in 2009.
Who's that? Who's got that?
A certain man by the initials of AC.
Cowie?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He picked that up. There was a reprint of a lot of these classics done in the mid to late 2000s. Ian Buxton was involved in this company, along with Neil Wilson, I think. It was called Distilled Discourse. It, I think, fell apart around about the GFC, or maybe a little afterwards. And that they republished in a very nice edition, J.A. Nettleton's The Manufacture of Whiskey and Plain Spirit, which is one of the definitive textbooks. And Harriet, I'm pretty sure Dave's got a copy or an electronic pirated copy that has been floating around. It's a text that actually sits in a lot of distilleries still. They've actually, a lot of them have kept it. Nettleton's stuff is now in public domain technically. And there is I've got my eye on a copy, but I don't think I can justify spending a 4-figure English pound sum on it. Yeah.
Not when the online pirated version's $30.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And yeah, I'd like the nice physical copy, but it's like buying a Barnard first edition. No. And Scott, is there a book on the history of tax and whiskey? Not on the history of tax in Australia, but there is a book. It stems from an academic paper that Charlie McLean worked on relating to smuggling and illicit distilling in the Highlands, in a particular area of the Highlands. I know I've got the academic paper I've downloaded, and I've got the book somewhere. I haven't read that yet. That's probably on the to-read list for later lockdown. So, yeah. There is a book that covers aspects that are relating to history of customs and excise in England, in Britain, and the taxation situation.
I'd love to hear about that book. I'm going to have to jump out, boys, because
That's right.
I've had a bolognese on the stove for 4 hours. My partner's going to kill me if I don't start serving some food soon.
Good idea.
Good to see Harriet.
Good to see Harriet.
Congratulations, Julian, again. Lovely to meet you guys.
Thank you.
I love you, Matt.
Yeah.
See you soon, Harry.
Bye, babes.
Cool. I have to actually remove that from the stream. Boom.
Oh. Murray, you're not clouching as much anymore.
All right, good. Because I'm not moving. Should I go and change my shirt?
Yes, for a Friday night informal drink stream, you should definitely change your shirt.
Don't go anywhere. Just change it on camera.
That I am not
Friday
doing.
night drink.
Do it slow.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
The camera lens can only take so much. The camera lens can only take so much.
Be right back.
Okay.
He's gone. He's gone to change.
I'll tell you something, Harriet. If you can still hear us, by the way, your camera's still on, and you're still. I could pop you into stream right now, so you probably want to close restream. I can see you waving in the back. So I can just do that, right, and be like, oh, she's having a bolognese. You're quite doing bolognese. I can't take her out again. But like, if you leave it there, she goes, okay, now she's worked it out. She's left the stream. So good. I was hoping I shouldn't have said anything, and then I'll just quickly turn the stream back on while she's mid bolognese. Wow.
So Matt, is the history of Australian whiskey part 2, 1992 onwards, is that being marketed as such, or is that just Andrew Durbage's autobiography part 1?
No, it's I sort of wanted to. It's 3 parts to the whole story, and it's sort of 3 chapters of it. And the first chapter is Luke, the second chapter is Andrew, and the third one is me. And I figured we were sort of just playing into our expertise. Andrew's been involved in writing about Australian whiskey for far longer than I have, but I'm quite up to date with where we are currently, but just not. He's been sort of following it for a good decade longer, and of that whole scene of especially that sort of. There is some. I don't know how far I can say on this kind of thing, but there's definitely some muddying and hard information to find. It's easier to find information about what was happening in Australian whiskey in 1965 or in 1865 even. It's actually, if you dig through the national.
Right? Yeah, no one hid anything, no one did anything. Just it was no proprietary. It's like here's all the info. Yeah,
but like actually finding information about what was happening in Tasmania or mainland or anything really in sort of like mid 80s onwards is you it's not that it's hard to find. It's just that you hear 3 to 4 different versions of that story that are all sometimes radically different.
Stolichnia, Smirnoff, Erastov.
yeah. And so you ask, like, if you ask certain different, I won't name names, but if you ask certain people, oh, tell us what was happening in 1989 with Cradle Mountain, as an example. It's like, and it's that the answer to that is very, very, very different depending on who you ask.
Yep.
And so
I guess it's a product of when you're such small scale, or when you're building to something, so you're starting small scale, the stories are inherently more anecdotal and more people's impressions, as opposed to a big industry that's just reporting on stats and volumes and whatever. It's
like the Victorian Valley,
each other. Yeah,
the Victorian Valley one is a perfect example of that, where it's like it's one of the biggest breweries in the state that then starts distilling spirit. So that story is very much like locked in stone. Like, let's go from 0 to 300,000 liters a year of spirit.
Exactly.
Whereas with distilleries like the size of the scale at the time in the late 80s of the likes of Cradle Mountain and then Sullivan's Cove and Lark and whatnot, those scales and numbers were sort of like, they'd be lucky to be putting down 2,000 litres a year.
Something that I find really interesting about that period in history as well is that the people that were making the whiskey in the 60s and prior, they wanted to have nothing to do with the people that were starting to produce again in the 1990s. No one asked anybody else. All they did was go straight to Scotland to ask, how do we do this? The people that were making it in the 60s and 70s, they didn't want to have anything to do with the modern industry. It's like they were ashamed. And that's something that I think that, I don't know, I'd like to know more about that era. Where did those people go? They just seem to go into hiding and bury everything.
Yeah, right. And so that data and that information isn't then sort of broadly, like, is it broadly available, or?
Well, from what I've gleaned so far, that's just like the dark ages, as you were saying. There's just nothing around, and I think it's a part of history that's been lost. The way that culture is built is by telling stories and teaching people of the next generation how to do things and how we do things. And it seemed that they just stopped at that point and didn't want to tell anybody else how it used to be done. And I think that's the saddest part. And I'd love to, there's still a few of these blokes around and these women around potentially that were, producing this product. And I'd love for them to talk. I'm not looking for dirty secrets. I'm just like,
no.
How'd you do it? What did it taste like?
It's another strange thing too, isn't it, Jules? Because it's like that, people, when you went to Scotland I didn't, but in the 80s or whatever, even in the really early 90s, and you fronted up to distilleries and that didn't have visitor centres, and the guys couldn't believe anyone wanted to know about what was effectively a chemical factory, like making product to go out. It's probably a bit similar almost in the Australian industry. Never had craft whiskey as a brand they were associated with. No head office was going, okay, you got to start doing tours. And so, not in anywhere near the extent anyway, and not for the public. And so it's sort of like, well, maybe it's just, I was a factory worker in the 60s and then I stopped. And sort of it's less endearing now than all the guys who are heroes because they were distillery workers in the 80s and 90s. But just maybe because Scotland continued in that scale, they saw that craft interest coming up through consumers. Maybe. I
mean, you don't see woolen mills from 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago with visitor centres now, do you? Woolen mills are still around. People don't go on tours of these facilities. It's quite a phenomena that we do want to go and visit production facilities like that. So, who was Tahiri? He's back.
Oh, Murray, you got to change.
Did you actually go to change your shirt? Like, what's going on here? Why did
you got to change it again because it's the same colour as Woolers?
Yeah.
Sorry, but can you go and change your shirt again? Like, I mean, no offense, but it's the same color.
I want to be like Matt.
Well, speaking of go on. What?
It's really going to be hard to show on camera, but I literally just got a text message from Anthony Cowie, and he sent me a photo of the actual book, The Manufacture of Whiskey and Plain Spirit, the book that he's got. He's obviously watching along tonight, and he's literally just sent me that as a text.
You should report him for obscene posts.
Well, to the point I was hearing before about the woolen mill, and one user has commented already that there is a visitor centre. In my other line of work, I'm aware of visitor centres that do exist in woolen mills in Italy. There's a very big family-owned one. Vitali Barberis Canonico, VBC, and they have a visitor centre. It only opened in 2003, I think, 2004, but they have a visitor centre for where you can go and see suiting cloth being made, and it's one of the oldest family-owned woolen mills in the world. But
corrected.
Yeah.
Poor Jules with a really, really good point and an example that gets shut down immediately.
Sorry, my nerdiness is showing up.
There is an example out
there. Oh dear. But but I mean, further to that point, in the 80s and 90s, there weren't many of those sorts of things. visitor centres were an uncommon sort of thing for a lot of distilleries. They were and still are treated by many as just sort of factories and production facilities. So.
But I mean, and on the flip side of that, now we've got a lot of distilleries, not necessarily just Australian ones, but there's distilleries around the world that the visitor centre experience or the tour of that distillery, it couldn't be further removed from the truth of the production. and they give you almost this very, very saccharine version of how whiskey's made. And I've been to one or two where they show photos of like the actual sort of a malting floor. You're like, they don't have a malting floor here. That's very interesting. and they're like, yeah, and we shovel the barley. It's like, no, you don't.
Stir the mash tun. Get the bloke to stir the mash tun.
Yeah, bloke stirring a mash tun. It's like, yeah, we stir everything by hand. No, you don't. But it makes for a cool story, I guess.
And it's amazing, isn't it, Matt? That like, so even in modern times, like the ones that aren't, and lots of cult distilleries, obviously, are the ones that open visitor centres, and there are quite rightly first movers. But you go to some of the lesser known distilleries that are mainly blending house producing distilleries, and I'm not telling everyone to just like swamp these guys, but if you get a nice hospitality of the Scots on a good day situation, you see some real stuff with those still. But even there, it's kind of like, because they're not on the map of cult distilleries or anywhere that's in a guidebook because they don't have a formal visitor centre, even the modern Scottish distillery worker, to the most part, thinks I'm just doing my job. Like someone's rocked up and wants to see what I do. That's great. But it's not like the same approach if you go to somewhere like, Tomintoul versus the Glenfiddich Visitor Centre. Like, it's just a different world of experience.
Yeah. It's actually, I mean, I'm sure we've all got maybe we don't. I know I do. We have a short list of distilleries that don't offer visitor experience, but I still really want to see what's going on inside. And it's like, I can't remember where I think I was at. It must have been Strathisla Distillery that have one of the most beautiful tours and beautiful distilleries, and it's stunning to see. But when you walk behind the distillery and along this ramp and up some little steps, and suddenly you're standing literally right next to Glenkeith Distillery. And you're looking in the front doors of Glenkeith Distillery. Couldn't see any staff there because obviously it's a very low staff distillery, a bit like Adelaide or something. It's can be run on sort of one staff member at a time, like a lot of modern fit outs. But I couldn't see anyone inside it. It was obviously running though, and I just looked through the windows a bit. Like I'd love to have a look through this distillery. And they don't. There's no visitor centre. There's no gift shop. There's no walk through. There's no sort of here's the casks, here's the stills, here's the Porteous kind of thing. But it's kind of, I guess it's what you can't have. It was what you want a little bit in that respect. But it's still like you see a cool distillery that has obviously some history and some cool lineage and going on. And it's like, I want to know what's going on behind here. It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yep.
Well, one book that does talk about a lot of that sort of stuff.
I have to bring up. We're going big screen for that one again. Hold that up, Murray. Here we go. Great book, Norman Case's Scotch Whisky, the Single Malts. I've got a copy down here somewhere. I can't see it at the moment.
Ooh.
Yeah, very cool piece of local history there. That book,
locally written by 3 Australians, and I was in Canberra before Sydney went into lockdown around the June long weekend. I went to the National Library because, well, yes, I'm a book person, but I did a quick search, and the copy that they are supposed to have by legal deposit, which is a law that says anything published, a copy must be sent to the National Library, was unable to be found. It's reported as missing. No, well, I do not have it.
Murray, I have a conspiracy theory for you then, because I looked up the Victorian State Library's version, or the copy they're meant to have. It's just a public borrowing one, not under the records, and also missing apparently in available to borrow, not on the shelf. So I'm not going to start a conspiracy theory right now, but all I'm saying is something super dodgy is happening.
Yeah, someone's stealing this stuff.
That's right. Yeah. Someone's collecting all the copies.
And for the record, no, it's not me.
It's like in that episode, those Tintin where you've got to hold all of them together, one page, and it's some sort of treasure map to a whiskey stash or something. Everyone's compiling all the versions. You heard it here first. Everyone go out and panic about that. Go and find copies.
Like a mad comic where you need to fold the back page
Fold the
so
back
it makes
page.
another picture.
Clues, riddles, the works. Yeah.
I meant to actually. I said in the preamble for this Friday Night Drinks that I was going to do some giveaways, and I haven't actually had a chance yet to. So I'm going to do one right now. Anyone who's watching and anyone who's enjoying what they're dramming on tonight, if you're dramming on a Society whiskey and you want to post a photo of it in our Facebook group of just you having a dram with the Society whiskey, the most creative or interesting photo, I'll send a bag of samples to. So please just put it in the thread, put it in our Facebook group, or if you want to tag us on Instagram instead, SMWS_AUS. I'll pick out the most creative and I'll send, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 samples over to you or something of just different Society casks that I've got.
Hang on. So what is it? Around. Is it 5 or 7?
I don't
5, 6, or 7 or 9 samples or something like that. I don't know yet.
As many as I've got. 567 samples.
That's 567. Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, that's what I heard as well. Yeah. No, I'll throw 6 samples in a bag for you of different Society single casks that are some upcoming and some also dearly departed things as well. So that'll be good. One of them might be something local. I don't know.
Nice.
That'd be fun.
That would have been an amazing hint at something if we hadn't just done the immediately preceding hour. You know?
It could be the other one. It could be the other one. It could be the other one. I don't know. Truth be told, I haven't actually decided that yet. So we are 2 weeks away from Outturn, as I mentioned before. Just for those wondering, because I've been asked a few times today, where's the Outturn? I say, well, it's still 2 weeks away. There's the cover, just for all to see again. It says on the cover, new releases online at midday AST, Friday, 6th of August. Now, Julian, you've got something you were planning on, and is it too early to say you're doing a sort of a thing?
Yes. No, you're right. We're looking forward to the bar reopening, hopefully next Wednesday, after the lockdown ends here in Melbourne. Sorry, Wooler. Sorry. They haven't said it yet. All right.
Look at Sydney.
But, with holding all of that in, apprehensively, we're intending to be getting as many as we can of the new Outturn on the bar at Whisky and Element. But what we're going to do is we're going to maybe pick about 6 or 7. We don't know how to pick them, so we're going to do a forum and people can vote on which of the Outturn. I think there's going to be 14 bottles available on the Outturn, and then we're going to choose 6 of them based off what everybody wants to see on the bar. So I'm looking forward to seeing which distilleries everyone really prefers, and it'll be really interesting. So if you see it come up and you really want to try that, incredible. If you want to try that Glenlossie aged in a Sauterne cask, like I do, then please vote for it, because then we'll make sure that those are the ones that go on the bar.
Yeah, awesome. So sort of a voting structure to see which ones they get. And can I encourage people to vote on flavor profile and perhaps then code or something like that? Don't just vote on whatever the most expensive is. It never works well.
Yeah, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, that'd be really appreciated. Well, that one is a given. That one is a given. So don't worry too much about that.
This whiskey democracy got very interrupted all of a sudden. Oh yeah, no vote, but that one's a given. That'll go in. Sure.
Well, I mean,
Matt. This is the slippery slope, mate.
I never said whiskey was a democracy. We're talking about whiskey communism here. Sorry, that one's a given. Deal with it.
And he's making me open my bottle as well.
No. Oh, hold on. No one's being forced to do anything, except if you don't, I'll see you in the gulag. But I mean, it's you don't have to do anything. It's fine. It's fine.
Fine, mate.
Matt, you've been since you arrived in Melbourne, you've been stuck. You haven't even actually gotten out.
That's right. Yeah, well, it's stuck like proper self-ISO, and then when that ends, it'll be I'll get to go from ISO to lockdown.
Yeah.
Change
the difference is
holiday.
I think the difference is it's like you can go for a walk now instead. It's like great.
It's an hour's exercise in the yard.
Inch of freedom.
Julian, we've been wagering that Matt's going to be setting up office at Whisky and Element. That's actually where his office is going to be.
I said that to you yesterday, Matt.
It wouldn't be the first time.
I have worked full days upstairs before. It's fine.
It's not a problem. It's not a problem at all.
Did you hear that? You hear that, folks? It's not a problem at all.
Morsey, that seat with your name on it is gone.
Oh, mate, see, Matt remembers to pay his tab, so he's above me on the pecking order of...
Yeah, look, actually, Alex, let me just tell this for a second. I've told Jules this, or I think I told Brooke this. It was I think it was about 2019, and it was March, I think 2019. I had an event at Melbourne Whisky Room upstairs, and I can't remember what the event was, but after the event, I went downstairs and had a few cashews and a few drams in the bar downstairs, and I think I just sort of let it get away with me a bit, and I just left the bar that night, and I was like, "Thanks, folks, love you all, bye." and I wandered out and went back to my hotel room and caught the next flight out the next morning, and then and this was in March, and then it was like that would have been like something like the 14th of March or something, and then. It was like the 20th of April was the next event in Melbourne. So it was just over a month away. And I get to the bar again, and I think I have my first Kaiju Crush, and I said, I'll just put that on my tab. And Lockie looks at me and goes, okay, you're currently owing $282. I was like, hold on, I've just had the one beer. And he goes, yeah, but you haven't paid your tab from 5 weeks ago when you were last in Melbourne. So I just kept it open on the till until you got back here because you knew you were coming back. I was like, oh, damn it. This is the most expensive beer I've ever had.
That's it. I'm probably a lot more frequent than that, but they know I'm coming back here in the next 2 days or so.
Yeah. I just love the fact that it was an open tab sitting on the till for 5 weeks. Oh, yeah, it's Bailey. He'll be back. Don't worry about that. Like, just
one of those brown receipts. One of those brown scrunched up receipts with lots of tears in it. Yeah.
They're aging.
So yeah, I got away with that one, and so they knew I'd be back. So, but you're a bit different, Morsey. You'll be two or 3 days away. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's right. They know where to find me. It's at the bar.
Just there.
Have you got your plaque on the seat yet? You know the little brass plaque.
Oh well, Muller just told me that mine's been removed for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hadn't told you that yet. Sorry. Yeah,
it's been years together.
Yeah, tough luck, mate. That's yeah.
You just have to cuddle.
Yeah, just have to cuddle. Dear.
Oh.
Switch from cognac to back to whiskey. I'm on 10.116 Flaming Orange Twist.
That was a month. Yes, there you go. Yeah. That was a more than a month in like
brilliant
2016,
something like that.
16 or 17. 17,
yeah,
maybe.
Just going through.
All right.
Yeah, the new bottle in the new format. That's you'd know all of those, Matt.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember when that was. Actually, I was going to bring something up for tonight just to show.
Actually, more you'd know before anyone.
Yeah, well, I would have thought 17, but I might be confusing it with because there was that amazing other 10 that was a similar flavour profile for Champs, and obviously that would only be even number years until the recent issues. So I think it might have been 17, and it was a bit earlier than the similar profile one that was 2018 Champs.
Oh, here it is. I found it.
I can't remember.
Well, anyway, Morsey, you're a bit behind times because it looks like most of your bottles behind you are old.
Oh, no, mate. Well, yeah, they are. And well, I've got my new ones. I can't sort of move my screen that well, but I've got my new ones down on.
Well, you can try. Just try and move it.
This is all the new ones. That's about what you see. And then, but just the taller shelf has all the old ones.
So what do you use that soda stream for then?
That's for my, I'm a big fan of the old sparkling water, a few drops, palate cleanser.
Little seltzer, yeah?
I'm off the beers too. Well, that's the thing. I'm not having beer anymore for a while. So I have make exceptions, notable exceptions, but I usually would do a Boilermaker or something. And so now I'm on, well, it's not really a substitute to beer, but I'm not usually accompanying whiskey with a beer these days. So I've got to pick an alternative.
I just want to show, we're just talking about turns for a second of covers. I don't think I've ever shown this one out publicly before, but I'm really excited to share this. This is some society history in a way, actually. This is more recent history. Back in November 2015, this was one of the first, or actually this would be about the third or fourth outturn I was helping produce, and it was called, more of the month was Fire and Ice, 55.34. Let me bring up the screen here if we can all see that. Here we go.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, and I think Alex knows this trick, but this is the cover that we ended up printing, awesome. And that was sort of the look and feel at the time, and where it was sort of like a single sort of flavor element with a colourful triangle or shape on the cover. Looking back on it now, it's like nothing really makes sense, but very, a little bit out of date now. With the old monogram as well, and anyway, very that was clean, the cover.
Very minimal.
Yeah, very minimal. We liked that sort of clean cover look back then. I think it was rather than all the colour and everything we have now. But it was that was the cover we ended up with. But we ended up with that cover. For those who don't know, we normally go through about 3 or 4 different versions of an outturn cover almost every single month until we find the one that we're really happy with and we land on, and that's the design that we're after and everything. This one was the one we landed on, but the one we started with was
so cool.
That's what the cover would have been. But we took that to the printers and they said, "Oh, that's not going to work." So they looked at all the black on it and said, "Oh, that ink is going to bleed." And
no printer likes black ink that much. No.
And it was just a nightmare for the printers, and we were just so disappointed because we liked that whole idea of fire and ice, like literally looks like burning ice, and that was sort of the name of that whiskey. But we ended up going with the fire and ice, like a fire, chili, and ice around it.
No, that makes no sense.
Excuse me?
No, it was a bad choice.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Okay, there you go. Well, it's okay to be wrong. You're wrong. That's fine.
That was a hard no. So that was a 2018. I didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah,
2018.
I was off by a bit. I was thinking 18 for champs, but there was another subsequent. It must have been sort of a similar parcel. I think. I think was that My Cloak's on Fire, a 10 at champs 18. Brilliant. Bought it on the day from trying it. Mind you, I had the 10 or 8 drams prior in the actual champs, and then rocked up in the tasting room after, and then thought this is great whiskey. But no, I opened it after and proven right, it was good whiskey.
No, just for the record, Annalisa, no, I wasn't. Wrong dates, wrong. Everything was just didn't match up. No.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
Yeah, not that.
That's a better conspiracy theory than my earlier one. That's a good sort of 1 degree of separation conspiracy theory there.
Yeah. Sorry, Alex was multitasking, so what he just said is also in the comment section. I was out by almost 2 years.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying I just finished last night the anthracite seasoning dust. There was that much left in a bottle.
Yeah.
After Good Beer Week, always got a little bit.
I'm ready to go for 30th.
Yes.
Ready to go.
Wow. Oh, I just
the anthracite seasoning dust, for those playing at home, is the whiskey is the exact whiskey from the cask that was 53.314 was filled into the Hop Nation Carbonaro. So it's the actual sort of whiskey from that cask for that beer, which so you couldn't get closer to any closer to a perfect pairing, if you like, a Boilermaker sort of made in heaven right there. That's really exciting for us. But it just also just a little inside story on that whole cask, I think was, or at least most of the allocation on that cask was designed for the China branch, and we managed to squeeze out, I think it was 1 case or 2 cases or something like that. Literally 12 bottles of anthracite seasoning dust that arrived from the country. So a very, 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 very small allocation might go on sale on the virtual night of that bottling, because I think between what Jules has used and what we've used in the virtual packs and what we allocated for the actual real events of that event, which now was put on ice obviously lately, I think we might have 2 bottles or something like that. Maybe.
It's not something you hear very often, is it? Leftover Kalila. It sort of goes a little bit like, it sounds the same as leftover venison. You know, it doesn't really, you don't hear it that often.
Yeah.
That's an interesting comparison, but yes, totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because it's such a problem, I find, leftover venison.
Yeah.
I can't even get the fridge door shut. It's fucking beer head hanging out. I can't get the door shut.
You are naming casks plenty tonight, Jules. That's. I don't know what distillery it'll be, but leftover venison is a cask name that's coming through.
Yeah,
now.
that's a cask name. I hope that Ewan and everyone watches this now or later and just works out that we've just named another society cask. So leftover venison is a thing.
That's right. Them big antlers are spilling all the yogurt.
That's not a cask name.
Oh dear indeed.
or it could be for something we may not want to drink.
I have to credit my idol for that one. That's a Billy Connolly. But,
I was going to say that sounds sounds like a big line.
It's a big insane.
Oh, I found another draft versus final copy of an Outturn cover. I want to share this one as well.
I live off this stuff. This is great.
This almost happened as well. Okay, here we go.
I can't share images on here, can I, Matt?
I think you can. I don't know.
I can post a video, but I can't share my screen.
If you can post a video, you can definitely share an image. Okay, let me just grab this up for a second. So here's the original cover of July 2016. Malt of the month was Big, Bold and Beautiful, 82.20. That was a cracking whiskey.
That was a great cask.
Yeah.
From memory, I think it was a 17-year-old refill sherry, 82. It was just stunning stuff. So that's what the cover we ended up with.
Oh dear.
I don't know where this came from, but the alternate cover, which nearly happened, was
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So that was one of the original design briefs, and but we wanted that. That wasn't like sort of hit and hope. That was just like that's what we wanted. We wanted this sort of like big, bold, beautiful dog on the cover. I don't know where.
No, that's an Austin Powers joke there.
But I love it because I love showing people this. Is that there is a lot of effort that goes into creating these outturns over the years of these wild designs, and sometimes it might be a thing like Fire and Ice, which Susie and I every so often will go back and say, I remember that Fire and Ice cover, the black burning ice. It was such a cool cover, but just wouldn't work in print, and I mean the dog one didn't really work either because it was a bit sort of Austin Powers-ish maybe. But I love that process.
We didn't have cancel culture back then, did we? I don't know. Is that what it
No, it wasn't a thing yet. It wasn't a thing yet. We weren't quite into that era yet of where you're not allowed to do that.
That was an amazing cast, though. I remember that cast. That was it was 17, and it was sherry.
Yeah.
It was malt of the month, so it was amazingly priced.
Yeah.
And it was just absolute quaffable. I think it was.
Yeah, it was a very quaffable dram.
Yeah,
I do like it when we're able to get something like a malt of the month with some real age on it. Like it does happen every so often. Like we had that 9.197 or something recently, like 2 months ago. The 17-year-old from Distillery 9, that was $1.99 as malt of the month. Like that's a single cask 17-year-old whiskey for $1.99. I think that's absurd, but Biggie's back.
I wanted to share that picture.
Did it work?
What?
I'm going to take it as a no.
Well,
sounds like a body positivity magazine.
I'm not sure what you're telling me.
Oh, 191. Sorry, yeah, you're right. Sorry, someone's picked it up quicker than I could have found it. Yeah, 9.191. We've had a few 9s lately, so 9.2. I get confused with 9.200, which was the festival release. Now that's definitely a sales pitch. Oh, there it is. 9.200. Fascinating whiskey. Truly stunning stuff. Trading lab for the black cover would have happened. Mark, you never disappoint. That's a very good plug. Nicely put.
I wanted to say when Harriet was like, we'll wait till now that the first Australian cask's been bottled, it'll be a race to the first premium label Australian cask, won't it? That'll be the next bastion we got to cross.
I mean, hopefully not. I mean, not immediately, but but if it'd have to be something quite worthy of the black label, or maybe Australian vault bottling.
Oh yeah, that's
no, I don't think so.
Been maturing for 30 years, and there's 3 bottles of it.
The mind boggles. The mind boggles.
And one's going to Whiskey and Ale.
That's right. Yeah. The cast name is Angel Share personified. That's
there it is. So not a venison hanging out of a fridge, but this is Angel Share personified. Yeah. All right. Well, look, I think we might call it there, folks. I just want to do a couple of hours just of Friday night drinks. Really appreciate you all tuning in. Really appreciate you all of my special guests, Alex, Biggie, Matt, Murray, Julian, Harriet, and everyone who tuned in. Really, thank you so much for coming along for this ride. And if you've been locked down and enjoyed a dram with us tonight, I really appreciate that, because whiskey is made for sharing. And if that means that we're all in lockdowns, whether you're in lockdowns, self-iso, whether you're stuck in Adelaide, particularly if you're stuck in Adelaide, I'm sorry, but if you're stuck in Melbourne or Sydney as well, that's also pretty bad. And if you're stuck in lockdown, whiskey is for sharing. And if it means you could sit with us tonight and have a dram and just have a chat. And thank you for all the comments, by the way. There's been literally hundreds of comments coming in, and I haven't had a chance to throw them all up on screen, but it's been lots coming in. Good night, all. Thanks for organising. Annalisa and James Caden says, cheers to you all. Good to see you, James. And we'll catch you all soon. It's been fun. Thanks, Sluncher. Good to see a Sluncher in the chat thread, of course. And in the meantime, like I said, it's only, what are we at? It's 2 weeks. I keep saying it. 2 weeks before Outturn. It's coming up. We'll give you more details over the next week of what else is in it, because we've only really sneak peeked the actual cover so far and some of the details about 147. Nice. But as I said, over the next week or two, we'll be releasing even more, and you'll be able to read the full Outturn in due course. Thank you again for all my guests. Thank you for being part of this and enjoying a dram with me. And I'll see you all soon. Have a great weekend.
See ya. Have a great weekend,
guys.
Cheers.
Great to see everyone.
Bye.
Launcher.
Bye. 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 Bye.